Okay, Boker Tov, welcome. We're on, what is this? I'm sorry, I forgot. Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. On the Mishnah on the bottom. Yeah, on the bottom. And we're talking about Edus to testify that a woman's husband died, that she can be married. So before the Mishnah said that 5 women, yesterday's Gemara said 5 women are not trusted because they have issues with each other. And the Gemara continues with that point about this is the case of Tzoros, 2 co-wives, that one of them says that her husband died. So we said before that she believed to herself and she could remarry, but she's not believed to the Tzoros. So the co-wife will not be able to remarry. Here, the Mishnah says, the 2 co-wives, one of them says he died, the other one says he didn't die. Before, we would have just said that she doesn't know. One says that one wife says she comes back, her husband died. The other one says, okay, I don't know. So there it says she cannot get married. But here it says even more. She says, lo meis. She says, I know that he did not die. So she surely cannot get married. The one that said that he died, she could get married. She could remarry. And we had said before, Bisham V'Hillel, and then Bisham V'Hillel gave in that she gets ksuba also. That's a standard. And now the one that says lo meis, of course she cannot get married. She says lo meis. So titul ksubasa. The Chorah is pashut. Before the Gemara was mashma, even if she didn't say anything also. Even if she didn't say anything, she wouldn't be able to get married because she can't rely on the co-wife. Here it says that if she says, I know he didn't die. The Pashup Pshat, just to point out, the Pashup Pshat in the Mishnah would be that even though she says lo meis, and she contradicts the co-wife who says he did die, still we do allow the one to get married. The Gemara's not going to say that, but that seems to be a chiddush also, that even though the co-wife is contradicting and not just saying I don't know, she says I know that he did not die, still we do allow the one who says I know to get married. That would seem to be the Pashup Pshat in the Mishnah, but the Gemara's going to talk more about it. What is that?
It's not Eidus, Eida Yachosh.
So you will say that it is, but since she's a co-wife, so we don't. She's not an aid from outside. She's telling she's the co-wife, so maybe she wants to mess her up. So you could say that. That would be simple. Seems to be the simple pshat in the Mishnah. The next case talks about also the co-wives, and not that she says lo meis. Both of them agree that the husband died, but the question is how he died. One says he died, whatever, on his deathbed. The other one says he was killed. So both of them agree that he died, and also that they each one says I can get married, but they seem to contradict each other how he died. Rameh says that since they're contradicting each other, so he cannot get married. Neither one can get married because each one is being contradicted by the co-wife. And the kasha is obvious that if he holds in this case it's considered a contradiction. In the case before, he surely should say it's a contradiction. If he says lo meis, then the chorah should surely be a contradiction, and he should argue in the ratio also. The Gemara is going to ask that kasha. But the Rebbe Shimon say, since both of them agree that he's dead, so they're allowed to get married. We don't care the fact that they're contradicting how he died, naturally, or he was killed, but both of them say that he's dead, so it's not considered a contradiction and they could get married. But if they would be contradicting, if one would say that he didn't die, it's much more weird that the Rebbe of Shimon would also say that is considered a contradiction. Rashi gets out of it. Rashi just says that the Tanna Kama said that meis and lo meis, the one who says meis could get remarried. And here it sounds like even Abu Dhabi Shimon only say because both of them agree that he died. But in the Resha, where one of them says that he did not die, so maybe even Abu Dhabi Shimon also say that no one can get married. Rashi gets out of it a little bit by saying that it doesn't mean that. Rashi just says that the only can say is that both of them, if they be contradicting each other, then not both of them can get married. But one of them could get married. Rashi says that it's not so mukh on the Mishnah. They would argue on the first part of the Mishnah. It could be they would also agree over there that she could get married. One more case in the Mishnah. This is not talking about the women themselves, the co-wives themselves. This is talking about Adam. We had before. It really goes back to the Mishnah before where it spoke about Adam. This Mishnah, Adam and Mace. Here I said before that if one aid says that the husband died and she got married, and then another aid comes and says lo Mace, she doesn't have to get divorced, but it wouldn't be mashma that she shouldn't have gotten married. If the second aid would have come before she got married, or the Gemara said before, once she got a heter also, they should lo say mehetera rishon. But if both of them would have come simultaneously, and one aide says yes, one says no, so it doesn't say before, but it would have been mashma, don't get married. If you got married, so then lo say. That's what the Mishnah says over here, more or less. It says they come together. One and the contradiction if the husband died or not the women, not the co-wives, but the Edom and Eid Echad says meis, Eid Echad says lo meis, or the same thing. If there would be psuli edus, which is each ameres meis, each ameres lo meis, which we said that even women are also believed in this as far as Edus Isha, that even Psuli Edus are also believed to say that the woman died. There you have one against one. Harezu Lotina say she shouldn't get married. Before the Mishnah said if she did get married, so then she could stay. But if she didn't get married yet and both come, so then Lotina say. Before the Gemara said that if Bezin accepted the testimony of the one that said mace, so then she's considered to weigh them. But if both of them came simultaneously, one said yes, one said not, one said one against one, and cannot get married. So again, the Mishnah in the beginning had about the co-wives that were testifying, not strain, not Edom, but the co-wives themselves. And let's go over the case again. The first case was that one says he died, one says he didn't die. The one that said he died could get married, and the one who said he did not die cannot get married. The Gemara's the Kasha in that first case, time of Dharma lo mace. The Mishnah says in the case where one said lo mace, he did. The wife says, I know he didn't die, she cannot get married. Of course, she said lo mace. The Kasha is hashtika tinase. It could be medayik that if she would have said, I don't know, she's just quiet, she could get married. That's not true. We had before that Tzara is not believed. She's believed for herself. She's not believed for her co-wife. So in the case where two co-wives, one of them says, our husband died, and the other one says, I don't know. So the one who said, I know, could get married, and the one who says, I don't know, can't get married. So why does the Mishnah say an extreme case where she says he did not die? I tried to say a pshat before in the Mishnah. The pshat would be that even though she says, I know he didn't die, you don't consider that a kasha, and the other one could get married. But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara is looking for a chiddush in the fact that she cannot get married. And that's really a pella. She says, I know the husband did not die, and we're going to say that she could get married. The Gemara says, yeah, there's a chiddush. Lo meis is trichle. It's a bigger chiddush to say that she cannot get married when she says he did not die than if she says she doesn't know. It doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, really he died. So why did she say he didn't die? She just wants to mess her up her co-wife. And she'd rather say that he didn't die in order that you shouldn't marry. Really, she knows also that everyone knows that he died. Both of them know that he died. One of them comes to say he didn't die in order that the other co-wife, and she's also not going to be able to get married. And that's called Thomas Nafshi and Pelishtim. And that's the case that's the quote from the Shimshon, paraphrasing Shimshon, that he said he'd rather die together with everybody. So he pulled the pillars over there at the end of the story, and the whole thing collapsed, and everybody died. He also died, but it was worth him to die together with the Pelishtim. So in order that they should die. So here, that in a bad sense, over there was good. Shimshon did a good thing. But over here, it's she'd rather mess up her friend, her co-wife, not such a friend. She'd mess her up, and even if she's also going to suffer because of it. And what would you think? So it's very strange. What are you going to think? She says, I know the husband didn't die, and we're going to say you can get married. She says herself, I know the husband didn't die. How could she say that? Taisus is bothered by that. How could it be that she says, I know he didn't die, and we'll say get married? And Satai says in the case where she retracts and she says, really, he did die, and I was making up a story, and she explains why she. So maybe then we would say okay, because we don't go for what you said that he did not die.
It's very different to what she initially came out.
Yeah, first she said he did not die. Then she says I really did die. This was trying to mess it up, whatever.
So basically she did true, but she did true.
So we don't usually go for retractions in testimony. Once there's testimony, we don't accept this. Here the Gemara is saying that's a chiddush. You don't accept the retraction because you might think that it's a good svara to say that she really wanted to mess up her friend. Commercially, don't say that. And the one who said that he died could get married. The one who said he did not die cannot get married. The Mishnah goes in the second case, just to go back to the Mishnah, the scroll back. The Mishnah's second case was where one of them said he died, one of them said he was killed. And Rameir says that they're contradicting each other, and therefore neither one can get married. And that's interesting because even though she's a co-wife, and she's considered a contradiction, in the Resha, she surely should be a contradiction. And the one who said Tinase should not be able to get married. If you say that even one says dead and one says killed, Rameir says they cannot get married because they're contradicting themselves, each other. So in the ratio where one of them said he did not die, surely it should be a contradiction to the one who said he did die, and that one also should not be able to get married. Why is Rameir not arguing the ratio also? Obvious kasha. So that's the more kasha over here. Well, it looks like Rameir should argue the ratio also. He should say that since the co-wife is contradicting, it's considered a legitimate contradiction, and we're going to listen to her words. We're not going to let the other one get married. So Gemara has two terutzim over here that they argue on each other. Two terutzim argue. Oh, Rav Elazar b'machlokas shnuya. You're right. But the Reish is also machlokas. Means even though the Mishnah says that the first case says stam, like no machlokas. The second case is the case of the machlokas where Rav Meir speaks up. He says the kasha is a good kasha. Rav Meir is also going to argue in the Reish also. Rav Yehuda Rav Shimoni that the Reish is only point of Rav Yehuda Rav Shimon who say in the next case that it's not. We don't consider it a contradiction. It is a little strange because the Gemara says the Mishnah says the only reason that it's not considered a contradiction is because both of them agree that he's dead. which would the diak would be that they would argue in the Reisha, because over there, if somebody said one of them said he died, one of them did not die, it is a contradiction. So we said Rashi got out of it by saying that the diak is just that it wouldn't be true that both of them could get married, only one of them could get married. So here the Gemara is saying that the Yehuda of Shimon could be the Reisha, but it can't be Reb Meir. Reb Meir, who says that a contradiction is neither one can get married, so in the Reisha it's only a contradiction, and Reb Meir would argue on the Reisha. It's very strange how the Mishnah says one case and then another case. Reb Meir is only mentioned in the second case, and according to this first pshat, Reb Meir would argue in the first case also. That's a dochak in this pshat, that it doesn't say that Reb Meir argues, but that was Reb Elazar's pshat, that the Reisha can only be Rabbi Yehuda of Shimon, it can't be Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan Amafrido Tem Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan says that Rabbi Meir could agree to the Reisha, that even though Rabbi Meir says if they're contradicting, then neither one can get married. In the Reisha, the one who said the one who said yes, the one said no, the one who said that he did die could get married. That if she says he didn't die, that we don't accept that. If she says, so Rashi explains what that means, that really Eid Echad is nothing. But by someone who says mace, in order to matter a woman to get remarried, so we did give them honors to Eid Echad. So if you have one woman that says he died, one woman said he didn't die, so the woman who said that he died, she has an emunus. The one who says, and she's considered to call it, she's considered a good aid, we accept one aid because she's saying that he died. But the one who says he didn't die doesn't have any special emunus.
It's
so
not too much a woman to get married. It's the opposite.
Right, and she doesn't have that strength. She doesn't have that strength, and therefore that's not considered akasha. Taisa talks about maybe only by tzoros, maybe by echad, one against one, maybe he would. The Gemara continues. The pashas is that he argues even, like the Gemara is going to say, he argues even on one against one. That according to this new svara, that one against one, also we're going to listen to the one who says that he died. If we're saying now that the one who says he died has more strength, because that's a special heter to trust one aid, that she's able to remarry. And the one who says he didn't die, there's nothing special about him. So we're not going to be able to trust him. So that's what the Gemara is going to ask in a second. But at this point, the Gemara says that Reb Meir, if both of them say he died, how did he die exactly? He died on his deathbed or he was killed. So then everyone's saying that he died. So both of them have the strength. And therefore we believe both of them. And now it's a contradiction, because did he die naturally or did he die by being killed? So then it's considered a kasha. But in the first case where one of them says he did not die, that has no special namonos, and we just listen to the one who said that he died, and she could get married. The most akasha from the Mishnah, because the continuation Tanan, Eidom Meis, Eidom Lo Meis, Isha Meres Meis, Isha Meres Lo Meis, Avez Lo Tinase. So here the Mishnah continues, the last case, the third case in the Mishnah, it says one against one, not the co-wives. Eidom, one against one, died, didn't die. The way the Gemara just finished explaining that, according to our mayor, that if someone says Lo Meis, we don't give it any special attention, and that's not considered akasha, so then there shouldn't be akasha here either. According to Rabbi Elazar, this issue was a machlokes, and this Mishnah again will be Rabbi Meir that says that it's considered akasha. The first chapter of Rabbi Elazar, he didn't say the skillet of Rabbi Yochanan about Lo Meis is not considered akasha. Lo Meis is considered akasha, and he said that it's machlokes. Comes out, the Gemara is happy with Rabbi Elazar, just comes out a little strange. Just want to point out the difficulty according to Rabbi Elazar. The Mishnah has three cases. It comes out that all three cases will be the same issue, and the middle case points out it's all akasha. It's one against one, either Meis and Lo Meis, or Meis and Nerag, or an Aiden that says Meis and Lo Meis. It's all the same issue. And Rabbi Meir would be arguing in all three cases. Rabbi Yehuda of Shimon would be arguing, is it considered akasha or not? You knock down the one against one. But he explains the first case is only Rabbi Yehuda of Shimon talking. This middle case is both of them talk, and the last case, only Rabbi Meir talks. Only Rabbi Meir talks. Is that true? That is, yeah, that's still akasha. So it's very strange setup of the Mishnah. The Gemara is happy with Rabbi Elazar that the Reish is only Rabbi Yehuda of Shimon. The middle case says both shitas, and the last case only says Rabbi Meir shita. That's pretty dochak, but the Gemara is happy with that. And the other pshat, but according to Rabbi Bishlam, Rabbi Elazar's stomach of Meir, the last case is only Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan kasha, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, everybody should agree that aid who says that he didn't die is we ignore him, and she should be able to get married. And the Gemara says kasha, and Tosfos talks about if the Gemara says only means by Tzara or not. So if someone wants to see Tosfos has a little bit more than we just said so far. The Pashas, the Gemara says that Mary holds that the aid who says not not that he didn't die doesn't have nemonis, and it's not considered one against one. It's considered one against nothing, and or something against nothing. And the one who says he died would be believed. Okay, Mishnah continues with more cases about what we learned already, that a woman is believed to say her husband died, but it's not believed for the co-wife. So again, you have two wives of one husband. When they come, one of them says he died, so she's believed to get remarried, but it's not going to be enough testimony to let the co-wife get married. And the Mishnah has the issue to talk about something else, another ramification. So far, the beginning is going to be just Chazara. A woman went with her and her husband went to overseas, and the woman comes back and says, my husband died. She could get married, and she gets suba. We learned all this already. And the tzara, the co-wife, cannot. We had that the tzara, she's not believed as a co-wife. So she herself is getting married, and the co-wife is not. So far, Chazara. How about the co-wife? They were married to a Kohen. The husband who supposedly died was a Kohen. And the one who's not remarrying, she's assuming the husband is still alive. Could she continue eating truma?
Yeah.
She's why? Because as far as she's concerned, the husband is alive. The one who's says my husband died, so she can't eat truma, and she could get married. And the one who is not trusting her, so she cannot get married, but she's still
Yerusha. She needs to live on his estate. Better word.
She's still getting supported by the state. Yeah,
She said yesterday.
She's still getting. Yeah, she's if her husband her husband might be alive.
From the marriage because she's.
Her husband is still alive. Yesterday we spoke about that after the husband dies or gets so then also she has a right to live off the estate until she gets the ksuba. Here we talk about the husband's alive. The husband is alive, so she has no reason to think the husband is dead, so she still gets supported. The other one who says the husband died, so she is gonna get ksuba and she can get married, can't eat truma anymore. But the one, the tzara, is not allowed to get married. Now the Mishnah talk about this is what the Mishnah is going to talk about. How about truma? That's going to be the subject of the Mishnah. If the co-wife is a Bas Yisrael, and she's eating truma till now because she's married to the Kohen. And the question is now, did he die? Tochel b'truma. Tarfon says that since she's not trusting the co-wife that he died, so she's allowed to assume he's still alive and eat truma. But Rabbi Kiva says no. Rabbi Kiva ain't zodech motziyatim b'de'avera ad shetehei asur linaseh v'asur malacha b'truma. She does have to be choshesh for the co-wife's words that maybe he did die. Means we're that's going to be machmer. We're not going to say for sure he didn't die. We don't know. So as far as remarrying, he can remarry. Maybe he's alive, but he can't eat truma because maybe she's right. Maybe he did die. That's machlokes. According to Rabbi Tarfon, she doesn't have to be choshesh at all, and she's allowed to even eat truma. According to Rabbi Kiva, she has to be choshesh l'chumra both ways. She can't get married, and she can't eat truma either. Another case, which also more or less we learned. We had this specific case also yesterday that Gemara spoke about. Amra meis bali, v'achkach meis chami. A woman comes and she testifies that her husband died, and also her father-in-law died. So her husband died means she's allowed to get remarried. Her father-in-law, what's it relevant to her mother-in-law? And she's saying that her mother-in-law can remarry. So we said already that a person is not believed for the mother-in-law. We said about the mother-in-law is not believed. We said also the daughter-in-law is not believed. We had two shatim why that should be so, but everybody agrees that the daughter-in-law is also not believed to testify about the mother-in-law. So therefore it says that if she said my husband died and then my father-in-law died, she's allowed to remarry. That's because she said her husband died. And Chamos Asura, that we had already, that the daughter-in-law is not believed to testify for the mother-in-law. She says the father-in-law died and mother-in-law you could remarry. We don't trust her because there's a sinner between them and therefore she's not trusted. And the same question over again. Could the mother-in-law continue eating truma? The mother-in-law was married to a Kohen and she was eating truma. And now there's have to be choshesh for her daughters-in-law's words that the husband died and she can't eat truma anymore. So the same halachos over again. That she doesn't have to be choshesh for the daughters-in-law words at all, and she could continue eating truma. Rabbi Kiva says no, you have to be choshesh both ways. She's not assured that she's out of an avera only if she has all the chumras. She can't remarry, and she also cannot eat truma. Just an interesting point that the Mishnah could have said this by all the cases. I don't know why it has fancy cases. By all the 5 women that we said that they're not trusted, but that'll be the machlokas. According to Rabbi Kiva, they still have to be choshesh and not eat truma if they were married to a Kohen. Okay, so we have 2 cases in the Mishnah. We had the machlokas if you choshesh for this woman's words as far as eating truma. The first case was about a tzara. Second case was about a daughter-in-law. That the daughter-in-law, the same case over again. There's a little chiddush here, just the one pointed out yesterday. There is a chiddush in this case. The fact that she said first that her husband died, that she didn't just come and say that the father-in-law died. First she said her own husband died. So that thing was a chiddush yesterday that she disconnected herself. She denounced her relationship. Till now you were my mother-in-law, but not anymore because my husband died. They're not related anymore.
Ah.
You might think that she is not worried about her mother-in-law anymore. She's back on good terms. The Gemara said no. See, she has experience from her already, and she hates her from the past experience, and she's not. She might want to mess her up, even though her husband died, or maybe her husband didn't. Maybe her husband did not die. She just wants to mess her up. Okay, that was yesterday's Gemara, but the Gemara doesn't discuss that point, and she's not believed on her mother-in-law, and the first case of the Mishnah was she's not believed on the co-wife, and the Machlokes says the same thing twice. Does she have to be choshesh not to eat truma? Rabbi Kiva said she has to be choshesh not to eat truma in both cases. But she doesn't have to. And the Gemara is going to find a tzricha, that it's a chiddush both ways. It could have said one case, and we would have learned it out ourselves. So the Gemara says no, there is a chiddush. Tzricha diet mahach kamaisa lo kam Rav Tarfon mishum tzar de gufa avol chamosa the tzar meila de alma emod de Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara says there's a difference between the sinner, call it the hatred or the animosity between the tzaros to each other, the co-wives, and the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law. So yesterday, it's interesting, the Gemara didn't mention a word about the reason that the daughter-in-law, that the co-wives might hate each other. The Gemara didn't talk about it. Rashi didn't even talk about it. It seems like it's taken for granted. Here the Gemara says the reason is because it's called Sarah de Gufa. Rashi says Sarah de Gufa means that they're in competition for relations with the husband, which l'chora means that the husband is only mechuyev owner according to the amount of wives that he had. We had to go a long time ago that say he has 4 wives. So then let's say his weekly owner is once a week. So then it'll be divided into the 4 wives and he'll have owner once a month. If there are more, the more wives there are, he's only mechuyev according to his koach. His koach is let's say once a week. So then if he has 1 wife, so then once a week. If it's 2 wives, then once every 2 weeks. 3 wives, once every 3 weeks. So the tzaros, that's the reason why they have animosity towards each other. They're in competition for the husband. So that might be considered a bigger animosity than the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. The daughter-in-law, why does she hate her mother-in-law? The Gemara seems to say it's other issues. It's not anything about Tashmish. There's a guess here the Gemara says that Torah is the reason why they have an animosity. It's Sarah the Gufa. That's physical pain. What's the physical pain? Not pain mamish, but it means the fact that she's held back from having relations with her husband because she has her co-wife to deal with. But Hamosa is called the Tzara. Now the question of the Gersa, we had 2 Gersas I saw. Some say the Tzara b'mili de alma. Mili de alma means other issues besides Tashmish. So it's not so serious. It's not such a big animosity. Others have a different Gersa that about the Tzara dimili, something about the words words. That it's the word mili would mean words, not issues. Words that the mother-in-law pains her with words, whatever she tells her husband things about her, or she insults her, whatever it might be. So maybe that's not as much as hurtful as the case of the Sarah de Gufa. That's how the Gemara says as far that the animosity between the co-wives is greater than the animosity between a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. And therefore, you might think that Reb Tarfon, who says that you don't have to trust the words of the co-wife at all, and you can continue eating truma, is because there's a big animosity. But by a smaller animosity, maybe he also would agree, B'choshesh, maybe she's saying the truth and don't eat truma. And the opposite. If I only would have said the second case, the case of the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, you might have thought only over there, but Kiva is machmer because it's not such a big animosity. But by big animosity, like by the tsaros to each other, you might think even he's masking, you don't have to be choshesh for the words at all, and she should be allowed to eat truma. Sricha, it had to say to focus in both extreme cases that Rabbi Kiva is machmer in both cases, Rabbi Tarfon is makel in both cases. So what we have, machlokes, if the wife could continue eating truma even though somebody testifies that the husband died. It passes like Rabbi Tarfon that she can continue eating truma. She doesn't have to be choshesh for the words of the tzara or the daughter-in-law, and she can even continue eating truma. She's not choshesh for the tzara at all, but for the tzara's words or the daughter-in-law words. She cannot marry, and she could eat truma. She gets all. It's consistently the husband is still alive. So as long as as far as she's concerned, the husband is still alive. Amra Abaye. I have another Mishnah. It's Machlokes Tanam, but the next Mishnah is also going to be mashma like Rabbi Tarfon. So this is our upcoming Mishnah, which will have on the base today. Nitan li ben b'medinas hayom meis b'ni v'achkach bali ne'menes bali v'achkach b'ni eina ne'menes v'choshin l'dvarev v'choleses v'mishet members. That's all the Mishnah. We'll see it in a couple of minutes. And the case was that they went to Medinas Hayom. Her and her husband went overseas, and they did not have a son at the time that they left. They did not have a son. So as far, when she left, it was becheskas that if the husband's going to die, she would be chayv. Right. And she came back and she said, "You should know, I had a son overseas. They were there a couple of years. I had a son, but the son died, and then my husband died. So what she's saying, she's really putting it back into square one.
Right.
She had we didn't know she had a son. She says she had a son, Mazel Tov, and then he died. The Torah, and a problem. But there's no son. And she's also saying there's no son, and therefore she's saying that if the husband died, I'm chayv yibum. She left the cheskas that if the husband's going to die, she left with the husband, but she left with the husband and no child, which means if the husband died, she's chayv yibum. The cheskas fell asleep. And then she came back and said, I got a son, you should know, but he died. So as far as practical is concerned, there's no difference. She has no son, and then the husband died. So she's saying, I'm falling to Yibum. And she gets Yibum. Like I said in the first Mishnah of this parak, it said, what? No, she's just saying the facts. She said, comes back and she doesn't have to know anything. She just comes back and say, I had a son, and he died, and the husband died. And she's saying, what is she saying in essence? That I'm chayv yibum. Because she left with a chazaka like that, that if her husband dies, and she says that her husband died, then she's chayv yibum. So menace. But if she's going against the chazaka, and she says that my husband died before my son, we didn't know she had a son. She comes and tells us she had a son, and the husband died first, and then my son died. What is she saying? I don't need yibum. And she wants to be able to marry out. So ain't in a menace. She can't marry out because she's going against the chazaka. The chazaka says that she's chayv yibum. We believe her husband died. That part we do believe her. But now the question is she chayv yibum? Could she go out? So since she had a chazaka that she's chayv yibum, so she comes and tells us she had a son. We never heard of this thing. She's saying she's telling us news. She had a son, and he died after the husband died, or he's still alive. So it says ain't in a menace, and she can't go marry out. She can't marry out. So what do? We're going to tell her to do yibum. We can't tell her to do yibum either because she says that she has a son, and there's no yibum. She can't tell her to marry the brother-in-law. What do? We choshesh for what she says. We don't make her do yibum because she says she can't do yibum. But she does need chalitza, even though she doesn't need chalitza either. We are machayv chalitza because she's going against the chazaka. Anyway, what does it say? It says the words choshesh in the Torah, and the Gemara is going to say that these two words are extra. It didn't have to say choshesh in the Torah. Could have just said ain't in a menace, but says the fact that it says choshesh in the Torah, that's the deal. A miyut to say that we choshesh for her words, and the Gemara is running out like a miyut over here. The Dvarehu the choshishin, the debate so ain't choshishin from Not that's talking about a tzara over there. The Gemara seems to just say that the extra words to say we're choshish for her words, but we're not choshish for somebody else's words. So the Gemara says it's like a tarfin that the tzara's words don't affect her at all, and even as far as truma, even though she surely can't trust the tzara as far as getting remarrying, but we don't even trust the tzara's words as far as eating truma that she does continue eating truma. Amud Bey is the next Mishnah. So here I put the whole thing in parentheses just to show the whole Mishnah with everything. Because the whole Mishnah is only going to be agav since we had a machlokes over Kiva Tarfin about how to make sure they got out of the situation of Avera, like Rabbi Kiva said both times that she can't eat truma. She doesn't get married, but she can't eat truma either because she might be doing an Avera. So the Gemara brings in a Mishnah. The Mishnah brings in a Mishnah that's not relevant to us at all, nothing to do with yevamos. Just a similar machlokes that Rabbi Tarfin doesn't think that you have to clear all possibilities, and if Tarfin says, Kiv is going to say, that you have to make sure you have to be clear on all bases. Just like Rasi said, don't remarry, don't need truma. It can be choshesh both ways. So the Mishnah brings a similar Mishnah, which is not our case, just to show another case of Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Tarfin. We'll see the case. Everybody will see. Maybe I didn't explain it well, but the Mishnah will explain, and we'll see the similarity to the previous Mishnahs. Here's a case. Kiddush achas mechomish nashim. Ve'en yodeh is a kiddush. He married kiddushin, one of 5 women, and then he doesn't know which one it is. He didn't know which one he married. And kol achas amaras osi kiddush. This one says that he married me, and he could have married all of them. If he wants to marry all of them, he can marry all of them, but it doesn't want all of them. He wants the divorce. So who can he give a divorce to? He has to give a get to each one because he doesn't know who he married. And each one says, you married me. And if you're going to divorce me, give kizubah. So no, so you get the chalachas v'yachas, or meniach kizubah v'nein, u'mustabik divrei Tarfin. Tarfin says, he has a kizubah issue. A get, we tell him give a get to each one. You can't hold on to them. You don't know which one. You should have known who you married. So you married one of 5. You don't know which one. So give a get to all 5 of them to release all of them. Should be able to get remarried. Oh, how about ksuba? That's the question. How about ksuba? So Tarfin says, you put down one ksuba, put down the one ksuba, and you say whoever's the true one should take it. And all the lawyers stand back. And if the lawyers don't stand back, it's not my business. I did my responsibility. I put it down.
Big wild party.
Big fight. That's their problem.
That's what he's saying. That's their problem. I did my responsibility. That was a ganav over here. Now he didn't do mamish because he should have known maybe who he married, and he's not allowing.
He must have been good and drunk.
Maybe his wife, the real wife, maybe she's not as pushy as the rest of them. She's not going to get a ksuba, and that's called he gave me the ksuba. I had to fight with the other four ladies. So Tarfon says it's good enough. He put down the ksuba, and they have to fight it out. Maybe they'll divide it equally, whatever. That's not his business. Kiva Omer, this is a similarity to the case before. Kiva says he didn't do Yotzi yet. He's not going to be discharging his responsibility only if you give scuba to each one. It's your fault. You should have known who you married. Then we have to give all of them. And you can't just say fight it out. That's one case. And another case is similar. The same Yisod. He stole from one of five people. He doesn't know who he stole from. He should have looked at the address when he went to stand. He didn't know which one he stole from. 5 people come and say, you stole from me, and he doesn't know who, but he wants to do tshuva. The Rebbe says, he puts down the money that he stole, and he says, the rightful owner should take it.
Same answer.
Same case. And Rabbi Kiva says, that's not good enough. He can't be discharging his responsibility, make sure he got out of the Avera only if he pays each one. So the whole thing has nothing to do with us. It just comes in because Rabbi Tarfon says, you mako, and Rabbi Kiva says, yeah, like this lashon of ein derech zu mosim de avera. You can't get out of the problem only if you cover all places. Before we pass like a Tarfon,
These cases, right? The last two cases.
I'm not sure what's going to be in this case. Any numbers over here? The numbers seem to be also like Rabbi Tarfon. That's what it looks like. No, it's like when I see like Rabbi Kiva. I don't know. I didn't look into it. The number here over here that it says Rabbi Kiva ein zu derech mosim de avera. Another two cases means the case of Kiddush. The Gemara is going to talk about what if he was Mekadesh Bebiyah. Here's the case where he just gave, I guess Kiddush just means Kiddush with Kesef, Kiddush Bekesef. How about if it's Mekadesh Bebiyah, which is not the right thing to do. You're not supposed to be Mekadesh Bebiyah. The Gemara is going to say it's considered Avera D'Rabbanan, that even though there is such a thing of Ish Mekadesh, how does it go? Each nickname Bekesef, B'Shtar, Bebiyah. But you're not supposed, the Gemara says, Rav Mangid, the Gemara, the Rashi brings down the Gemara and Dafnan Beis. It says Rav Mangid Amad Mekadesh Bebiyas and Avera to do that. It's not sepritzos. Maybe in the olden days it wasn't considered a pritzos, but nowadays now it's considered a pritzos. So therefore you're not supposed to do it. And then was also going to talk about the case of Gazal, case where somebody stole. What if somebody didn't steal but he bought? He bought something in the store, one of the 5 stores. He doesn't know which store he bought from. It means he has the item. He doesn't, and then 5 stores say he bought from me. He goes over there by the shuk, 5 stands next to each other, and then he says, "Who did I take it from?" And 5 people raise their hand. He took the apple from us, and then he doesn't know to pay. So same machlokus. Is it the same machlokus? So in both of these cases is a similar. It means the case of Kiddush, you also can have Kiddush B'Biyah, and the case of Gazal, you can have a similar case of Lakach, that he bought something and he doesn't know to pay. Is it also machlokus that we given up time? The svar is going to be that if you did an Isser, it's more Isser. It means the case of Gzela is more Isser than the case of Mekach. Maybe there's more reason to be Mekel. If he just bought something, it's not as bad as if he stole something. He should have also, when you buy something, you should know who you bought from. You have to pay which owner. But it's not as bad as somebody that stole. So there's more reason to say that he should be Mekel and let's put down the money in between and the real owner should take it. And also by Kiddush B'Biyah is more reason you should be more Machmer. The fact that he did Kiddush B'Biyah, so he didn't have Eireh. That's supposed to be Mekadesh B'Biyah. Maybe that's more reason we should be Machmer to give to each one. That's going to be the Gemara's issue, that our Mishnah chooses a case of Kiddushin. By a Kiddushin case, it chooses a more refined case that only Kiddush Kesef, he didn't do Kiddush B'Biyah. And the case of the Gzela takes the more gross case. The case of Gzela doesn't take the case of Mecca. That's what the Gemara is going to talk about. So the Gemara starts. First wide line, Kiddush Katani. The Mishnah talks about Kiddushin, Kiddush Kesef, Boa Lo Katani. It doesn't talk about being Mekadesh B'Biyah. And also the next case, Gaz Lo Katani, Lakach Lo Katani. But it talks about the sefer, it talks about money, it talks about that he stole. And that's Machlok Septaf Rabbi Kiva. It doesn't talk about buying. That he might have bought something from somebody. He doesn't know who he bought from. Does he have to pay all 5 stores? Or he does have to pay one of that one, put the money down, and they should fight it up with one of them stores. So what's the problem with that? My name is Nisan, Lo Tanakam of Lord Shimon ben Elazar. The Gemara says that seems to be not consistent because there's going to be a machlokis now, a long brisa that has a machlokis about what are we talking about? Are they talking about a case where it's a delicate, what would you say, adin or gross, a more refined case or a gross case? So here goes. The Tanya. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer. Reb Shimon Elazar is going to say that in the case where it was a refined case, it was a mutter case like Kiddushay Kesef and buying something. He did it wrong. He should know who he's marrying. He should know who he's buying from. But in that case, since he didn't do any Isser, so then everybody's going to agree that he just put the money down, which is against our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says the case of Kidesh also there's a machlokis. So here is Reb Shimon Elazar says, "Lo nechluka b'lo tafna b'kiva al Kidesh achas mechamish nashim v'eni yodeh is a Kidesh shemaniach ksuba b'neinu b'stalik." It's against our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that Reb Akiva argues in that case also. The case of Kidesh, Reb Akiva holds you have to pay each one. But Reb Shimon Elazar says no. Reb Akiva will not argue in that case since he didn't do anything. Since he didn't do an avera, he just was mekadesh b'kesef. His mistake was he wasn't responsible to know who he married, but he didn't do an avera. So there, Reb Akiva also would agree it's good enough to put down one sum of the ksuba, and the right one should take it. When is the machlokes? If he did the avera, if he was mekadesh b'bia, which the Gemara is soon going to say it's an avera. Over there, Reb Akiva is machmir to pay each one. Reb Tafan maniach ksuba b'nein and mistalik in this case also, even though he did an avera. Reb Akiva omer ad sheishal mechalachas v'yachas, he is machmir to pay each one because they did an avera. Also, the next case about
he's also machmir. No, Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Kiva is always machmir.
No, so he says no. Rabbi Kiva would not be machmir if he didn't do an avera. Rabbi Shimon Elazar said if only would have been Kidesh against our Mishnah, he's arguing on the Mishnah that if it would only would have been Kidesh, he didn't do ball, he didn't do avera being Mekadesh with Bia. He just was Mekadesh with Kesef, so then Rabbi Kiva would agree, just put that ksuba down, one, and let them divide it, let them find it out. But Rabbi Kiva only argues if he did Kidesh with Bia, then Rabbi Kiva is going to be a machmir to pay each one. And also the case of the Zayla, Rabbi Kiva also would say that if he didn't steal, he bought from the store, he doesn't know which one he bought from, so then you don't have to be machmir to pay each one, it's good enough to put down one payment. Rabbi Kiva Omer, if he stole, then Rabbi Kiva is machmir to pay each one. That's the end of the brisa. And the Gemara is saying that the brisa is consistent, that there's considered avera and no avera. By Kedusha and Kesef is no avera, and Mekach is no avera. And Rabbi Shimon Elazar says that in that case, Rabbi Kiva won't be machmir. He's only machmir when he did an avera. Now there's a Tanakhama that argues that Rabbi Shimon Elazar. All this was Rabbi Shimon Elazar. But the Gemara is like that the Tanakhama argues that the come Rabbi Shimon Elazar b'kidesh the lakach lo pligi. Since Rabbi Shimon Elazar is saying that they don't argue in these cases where it was done beheter, he didn't do anything wrong, then Michal Tanakhama Sava pligi, and Tanakhama argues and holds that Rabbi Akiva is going to be machmir even if he didn't do an avera. So we have machlokes tanon. According to Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Rabbi Akiva is only machmir if he did an avera, either mekadesh b'bia or to steal. And the Tanakhama holds that Rabbi Akiva is machmir even if he did not do an avera. But our Mishnah is not being consistent. Mani, who's our Mishnah? Because our Mishnah has a mix and match. Our Mishnah has the case about a Kiddushin, no avera done, Kiddush b'kesef, and the case of Gzela is the yes avera done. So he's not being consistent. Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah? Itanakama, listening Kiddush v'lakach. If it would have been Tanakama that he did no avera, also Rabbi Kiva argues that it shouldn't just say Kiddush, it should have said lakach instead of Gazal. Instead of said lakach, because even by lakach Rabbi Kiva is machmir. It doesn't say that. And here Rabbi Shimon Elazar listening Baal b'Gazal. If the time of our Mishnah is Rabbi Shimon Elazar that Kiva is only machmir when he did an avera, then it wouldn't make sense that it says Kiddush, because by Kiddush Rabbi Kiva does not argue. It should say the ball is the case where Rabbi Kiva is machmir. So the Mishnah seems to contradict itself, means it doesn't have any consistency with the two Tanah that we know of. The Gemara could have said that it's a new Tanah, but the one doesn't want to say that. So the Gemara is going to say that it does go according to Rabbi Shimon Elazar, and only Rabbi Kiva is only machmir when it was done in avera. Either Mishnah says Kiddush. Kiddush means Kiddush b'bia. It doesn't say Kiddush b'kesef. It says Kiddush b'bia. It says Kiddush. Kiddush means Kiddush b'bia. And then our Tana holds like Rabbi Shimon Elazar that even Rabbi Kiva is only machmir if he did an avera by being mekadesh b'bia or to steal. That's two more lines. I made it two dots over here just to point out that it's a new point. We're going now that there's only by an avera, and now there are two kinds of avera. There's a Kiddush b'bia and there's a stealing. Both of them are averas, but the Gemara says that stealing is a bigger avera. Tana Kiddush b'lay b'yachik kochad Rabbi Kiva. Tafagav d'isur drabanan avad Kanis. That it says two cases, two times the same thing, means why does Mishnah have to say two cases? Okay, it has to say a case of an Avera, Kiddush Mabiyah, and a case of stealing. But why does it say two cases? Both are Averas. So the Gemara says that the Kiddush Mabiyah is not such a big Avera. So there's a big Kiddush over there that Bekiv is Machmir, even though he did a small Avera. He did a Avera Rabbanan, is called, to marry Mabiyah, that's a small Avera. And even there is Machmir to return to each one. And the Big Tarfan's Kiddush is, even if he stole, which is Issa Daraisa, still he's not Machmir. That you just put the money down and they should fight it out. It's not his business. That's the end of the Gemara. Just to point out what I said the Gemara point to what the Gemara seems to say, that the difference between Kiddush and Kiddush Rabbiya was a problem because it was Avera Rabbanan. He did a Isur Rabbanan to be Kiddush Rabbiya. That's how I learned the whole Gemara. Rashi says something else. I just point out Rashi says that the problem why Kiddush, why Baal is worse, is because Asaba Maisa Vaginosa. He degraded her by doing Kiddush Biyah. And the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says there's an Avera. It's Avera, not because Ginosa. And I don't understand the Ginosa because she agreed to it. You can't be Mekadosh Biyah if she doesn't agree. Both of them agreed. The Gemara says they shouldn't do it. Rav gave Malchus for somebody's Mekadosh Biyah because it's priestess. It's priestess on both of them. Both of them agreed to do it. So it's not that he was degraded her. So Rashi, I don't understand why Rashi changed from what the Gemara says. The Gemara says because it's an Issa. Rashi himself is down that it's Issa. He says here.
Yes, why does Rashi want to come and saying that he's degraded?
I don't know why Rashi says it. Rashi is saying the reason why Kiddush Biyah is worse than Kiddush B'Kesef is because he degraded her. I don't know what Rashi says that for. And the Gemara says differently. The Gemara says the issue is because it's an Averis. And Rashi himself means that. That's what the Gemara means later on. The Yisur Rabbanan, the cover, the Rab Mangad Aman of Kadosh Baviyah, because it's priestess. So I didn't understand the Rashi. I just want to speak out. Rashi says different than I said. I said the point of the whole Gemara is because of Issa. And that's what the Gemara seems to say. So I didn't look into the Mephoshim to see what Shannon Rashi. Just to point out that's the whole Gemara, and the whole thing came in Aga because we talked about the Bekiva and the Zumot to the Avera, like I said before, that she has to be machmanat to remarry, she has to be machmanat to Truma, and the Mishnah brings in a similar case. Aga like a similar case about the Bekiva being machman on all sides. That here you have to give back the payment to everybody by the Kiddush or by the ball or by the Gazal. And the Gemara says the only keeps only machmer. This Mishnah holds like a B'Shem Ben Elazar. There's only machmer if he did an avera of somewhat, Kiddush Rabbiya or Gazal. But if it would have been that he went to a store and he bought from a certain store, he doesn't know which one, and all the stores say he bought from me, even if people would say this is the money and you figure it out, and the honest man should step forward and all the liars should step back, and he wouldn't have to be machmer to give to each one. The Mishnah continues about, again, more cases about the woman saying that my husband died. Here it is. And the main point in the Mishnah, if I got it straight, the main point is going to be that she's not believed against the chazakah. Even though we said a woman's believed to say my husband died, as far as Yibum goes, it depends if she's going against the chazakah, which we just mentioned a second ago on Amar Aleph. He said that she told us that she had a son. We didn't know about that. And so that's going to be the one. This is our Mishnah. Here it goes. The first case. They went overseas with a son. Means when they left, she had a son. And what does me having a son mean? That as far as we know, there's no Yibum happening. Even if the husband's going to die, she's not Becheskas Yibum. She's Becheskas that she's allowed to marry out. That when they left, they had a son, which means even if the husband's going to die, there's no Yibum. Then she came back. She says, my husband died. What does that mean? We still had a son. When he died, we still had a son. So it means there's no Yibum. She's saying I'm allowed to marry out. So, okay, then the son died, okay, but the husband died first. So when he died, there was no Yibum, and she wants to say that I'm allowed to marry out. Then menace, she can marry out, because she's not going against the Chazakah. The Chazakah says that if the Meis probably she's believed. As far as the Yibum, so we don't think there's Yibum because she had a son. Even though she says that the son died, okay, the son died afterwards, doesn't make a difference. How about if she says the son died first? That means she's coming to change the Chazakah. The Chazakah said that she has a son, and there's no Yibum. And now she comes back and says, you know, my son died, and then my husband died. Why is she saying that I should do Yibum? She said, I'm Chayv Yibum.
We already said we believe her.
No, here she's going against the Chazakah. Here she's, until now, she wasn't going against the Chazakah. Here she's going against the Chazakah. We believe her as far as Meis Bali. But how about Yibum? How about the Yibum part? So, as far as we know, she had a son. She tells us new news that her son died. And now she's saying the fact that my husband.
Before the husband died.
Yes, that's right. That's the case now. Meis Bani Vachach Meis Bali. So now she's saying that I'm supposed to fall to Yibum. As far as we know, she can marry out now. And she's saying, I have to marry the brother-in-law. So, she's not trusting, we don't let her marry the brother-in-law. It actually doesn't have no money. She only has no money. It's the same Meis Bali with the Chazaka, as far as Yibam goes. But here she's going against the Chazaka. She's saying, I have to marry the Yavam. We don't let her. But we do make her get chalitza. I mean, she said that she wants to marry the Yavam. We don't let her. But we're not going to let her marry out either because she says that she's chayv yibam. So Cholet says to do chalitza. We don't let her do yibam because of our concern, but we're not going to let her go free because of her words. She says that my son died, so I'm not free. So we say, okay, so get chalitza. That's in the first case. The other case, now it's the opposite case. That is when they left, she didn't have a son. The husband and wife left with no children. So as far as we know, if she's becheskas, that if the husband's going to die, she is going to fall to Yibam. And if she would come back and say, my husband died, we would say, okay, so do Yibam. But now she says, we had a son. Now, where's the son? So if she says, if she says, we had a son, but he died, okay, so it doesn't make a difference. So she's also saying that she's chayv Yibam. They left without a son. She says, we had a son, and he died. Okay, so back to first base. Say, I have no son. And then my husband died. So I'm chayv Yibam. Okay, that's what we thought also. So it's not menace because she's not going against the chazaka. But what if she says, Meis Bali v'achkach Meis Bani? She said again, she left without a son. Then she says, oh, I had a son. You don't know about it. I had a son, and
First the husband died,
my husband
and then the son
died. So what's she saying? She's saying that when the husband died, they had a son.
Right.
And there's no yibum, no yibum. So she's saying my husband died. I want to go out. And we don't know that. We know that she's my yibum if her husband died. So ain't in a menace. Again, we don't trust her against the chazaka. But means according to what we know, we was held to do yibum. But she says she can't do yibum. So we're not gonna let her do yibum against her words. We are gonna say she surely needs chalitza. She wants to go free. She says, I have a son. So my husband died, and we had a son. He happened to have died afterwards, but my husband died first, and there's no yibum. So I want to go lashuk. So we don't let her do that. We said you have to have chalitza. We say that.
Yeah, from one of the brothers.
We say, one second. We say because we think that she's chayv yibum, right? We make her do yes, but choshen levareh, and she can't do. I'm sorry, and she can't do right. Can't do yibum. We would have thought that she could do yibum even because as far as we know, when she left, she's chayv. There's no son. There's no son.
Right.
But so what we would have said with the chazaka, we should say do yibum, but she says I can't do yibum because I had a son. So don't do yibum. No do yibum, but she needs chalitza, even though she says that she doesn't need chalitza. We say you do need chalitza.
Right.
Okay. So the point is the same thing, that we're not going to believe her against the chazaka, but we're going to be choshesh to be machmir for what she says. Both cases are the same yisod. The beginning, it's the opposite case, but the same yisod. That if she goes with the chazaka, fine. If she goes against the chazaka, so we don't believe her against the chazaka, but we're going to be machmir as much as she's saying whatever the chumrah is going to be, either not to yibum or to get chalitza.
So she could come and say, we knew she had a son. Then she says that my son died afterwards. Then she can marry out.
Because that's the same. It's with the chazaka. That's with the chazaka. She's not going against the chazaka. Next case. Nita and Li Yavam. Here the case is the opposite. That they have no children. They have no children. No one says she has children. But we don't know that she has a brother-in-law before. As far as we know, she didn't have a brother-in-law. So when she left, it's the same case, but a different scenario. That she left b'cheskas, that there is no yibum because there's no yavam. The husband doesn't have a brother. And she is mechadish to us that I have a brother-in-law. Nitin li yavam b'medina sayam. But he died. So is that any different? We don't care when he died, because if he's dead, he's dead.
Yes, we didn't know about it anyway, so she's telling me.
And she's saying also that he died. So we don't care. It's make a difference who died first.
Right.
The husband or the brother doesn't make a difference because there's no yavam. Amro meis bali v'achach meis yevami v'achach meis bali in a menace. There's no difference if she says who died first. Doesn't make the difference who died first. She's saying right now there's no yavam. There's no yavam. So okay, so your husband died, and you're allowed to marry out, and there's no yavam to marry, even though you have no son, but you have no brother-in-law either. So you can marry out, that's fine. How about means that when she left, she was becheskas that there is a brother-in-law, and they have no children, and if the husband dies, she's going to fall to the yavam. And she comes back and says, Meis Bali, Vachach Ribami, or Yivami Vachach Bali, that my yavam died. Means as far as we know, if her husband died, she's chayv yibam. And she comes back and says, the yavam also died. So are we going to let her marry out? She's going against the chazaka. The chazaka says that she has a yavam. We don't know that the yavam died. So ain't in a menace. She's not going to be believed, and we're not going to let her get married. She needs she needs. Now, if the Yevam's not here, she can't get Chalitza either. So we tell her, you have to wait until it's verified if the Yavam died, because we can't trust you that the Yavam died. We know that there was a Yavam, and you're telling us that the husband died. So you need Yavam or Chalitza, and he's not around. So we can't let you get married out until you get Chalitza. Well, it gets verified that he died. Mishnah sums it up that a woman is not believed to say, even though she believes to say Meis Bali, she is believed to say my husband died, and she could marry out, or she could marry the Yavam if there's a Yavam. But she's not believed to say that the Yavam died. That's the way the Mishnah is saying. And she wants to marry out. She says my Yavam died. She's not believed. Also, can a woman come and say my sister died, who's married to my brother-in-law, and I could marry him now. I want my brother-in-law to marry me, not because of Yibam. No Yibam over here. There's no Yibam. Stam, two sisters, and you're not allowed. It's not to marry a wife, sister as long as she's alive. And she comes and says, "My sister died. My sister, your wife, died, and I could be married. You could marry me." She's not believed. It means this whole heter we talked about, that a woman because my husband died, that's because of aguna. That it's a kula. We rely on her also because of the consequences, but only because of aguna. But there's no aguna. This woman who wants to get married to her brother-in-law, there's no aguna. There are plenty of men out there, so there's no aguna. So we're not going to trust her to say that her sister died in order to be married to her brother-in-law. Also, the man is not believed to say, my brother died and now I should do yibum. Means he is believed, a relative is believed to say, if the brother-in-law comes and says, my brother died and you could marry out, he's believed to say that. But he's not believed to say, my brother died and you can marry me. True? The brother-in-law comes and says, my brother, your husband died.
Right.
And therefore you have no children, so you marry me. So he says, no, he's not believed.
Right.
Because also there's no case of what is this over here? There's no reason to believe him. Maybe he's not considered such a big avera to marry, and it would be a big avera if he's really alive. It's marrying Aisha Sish, and what's the case? He is believed to say that he died in order to permit the wife to marry out. He can give her chalitza and she can marry out, but to marry her, he's not going to be believed. Marry him, he's not going to be believed. Also, lo mesa ishto sheisa chosef. The man comes and says, my wife died, and I want to marry her sister. He's also not believed. There's no agun over there. There's no igun. He could marry anybody else if he wants to. He doesn't have to marry after the sister-in-law. So and the sister-in-law also surely has no problem. So therefore, there's no namas. The man is only the same as Bali. That sums it up. The Mishnah says only believe to say my husband died in order she should marry, but not that she should do yibum, not that she should get out of yibum, and not that a person should be able to marry a sister-in-law based on all of these eduyos.
Okay. Get a bus.
Okay, that's 5 more minutes. Okay.
I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay.
So if you just will switch off and maybe.
Okay, whoever takes care of it, whoever knows how to take care of
Push
it.
that little button and yes, then you keep it. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here Wednesday. No, thank you.
So you want us to, he's gonna keep it and he'll put it off tomorrow?
Exactly.
Okay, Shmi Batzlacha.
Right. Good luck.
Joint wedding.
Very good.
Someone's dying and he wants to save his wife from falling to the yavam. So, but she's not. He wants to give her a get. She should be free from the yavam, because if he dies and they're still married, so then she's going to fall to yibum, and he doesn't want her to fall to yibum. So he wants to give her a get. Now, giving a get, you can make a shliach la'alacha, but that's not enough. You have to be a shliach la'alacha. It has to be that the wife or her shliach gets it before he dies, and he's dying. The case would be, and he wants to give a zikui. It means that he wants somebody to make a schus. The halach is that you could make a shliach. You could give somebody to be mezakeh, but only if it's considered a schus. If it's a thing that a benefit that the person wants, you can make somebody to be but you can't do it. So it's considered a good thing or a bad thing that a woman should get out of the chiyuv of yibum. Is it a good thing for her or not? It could be assumed that she definitely wants it, and therefore you can make a shliach to accept the get, and the get is going to take the divorce is going to take place right now. A regular shliach lo halacha, it's just a messenger till he gets to the woman. But here it's going to be too late. So he wants to make a shliach la kabbalah. He wants somebody to be able to accept the get that should take the effect right now. Usually you can't do that because regular divorce is considered a detriment to the woman because she loses the husband, she loses the parnasa, she loses all of the chiyuv that husband has to his wife. So usually it says that you cannot make a schus to give a get to a woman. Only if she wants to. Only if she's there. Of course, you're not to give the get to her against her will. You have to give it to her. But to make a shliach that she didn't appoint, so you have no right to make a shliach because it's considered detrimental for her to get a get. But here, that it's because of a yavam, she's going to fall to the yavam. Is it considered a benefit to get out of the yavam? What's the sound? Even the sanyale is chosula, the zachalad and shlabafanav, or dimla, even the zimna derachmole, chovula, vein chavladim shlabafanav. Is the assumption that she likes the brother-in-law or that she hates him? If you assume that she hates him, she doesn't want to marry him, then it will be a benefit to get out of yibum. But sometimes she does like the brother-in-law and she's happy to marry him, then it will be considered a detriment to make a get for her. She'd rather have yibum. That was the question. Who asked? Rabbi asked Rav Nachman, is it considered a schos or a chov to get a get to get out of yibum? Amalei Tanina. So Rashi explains that the Gemara is saying that it's a suffix, that we don't know. Sometimes this way, sometimes that way, because the fact that it says, Rashi says the Raya is because the fact you don't believe her. Why don't you believe her? When she comes and says that I'm chayiv yibum or pataf yibum, we have both cases before. Sometimes she says she's chayiv yibum against the chazaka, or she's pataf yibum against the chazaka. So you don't believe her. Why don't you believe her? Because b'choshesh that she's lying. Why is she lying? Because she has some ulterior motive. What's the ulterior motive? Either she wants to do yibum because she likes him, or she doesn't want to do yibum because she hates him. So what's the answer? Sometimes she likes him, sometimes she hates him. So we don't know. So therefore, over here also, Rashi says here, then it's going to be chaletzes lo mishabenes. If somebody made a shliach, his muzaka get to his wife in order to save from yibum, we don't know if it's good for the wife or not. So we're not going to allow them to do yibum because maybe it was a good get because it was considered a schus to get out of the yavam, but we're not going to let them go out without chalitza. Maybe it's a chov, and she really does want. So chaletzes lo mishabenes. So it doesn't really help her too much because she won't be able to be mutar l'shuk without the chalitza anyway. Amalei, and one more question. Amalei vina lebava. Amazaki get lishta b'makam ktata. Now they're in a fight. Nothing to do with yibum. A man and a woman, they're in a fight, and he wants to give a get to her, but she's not around. Could we assume that since they're in a fight, the woman wants to get, and she's happy to get the get? It's considered a schus to get the get, and he can make a shliach lekabala and give it to him, and they consider divorced or not, or is it a chov that she wants to stay married even though they're in a fight? Even the is like tata bada schusula, since they're in a fight, so she wants to get out of the marriage and she's supposed to get out. Or dilma nicha de gufa adavlay. The word nicha de gufa, or there's another word they say. What's the box say over here? Nicha de gufa or sabsa de gufa, the companionship that she wants to stay married even though they're in a fight. Is it better for the woman to stay married even though they're in a fight, or if they're in a fight, better to get out? The Gemara in Gittin, the Mishnah in Gittin seems to say there's an issue about parnasa, that she gets parnasa. She has a chiv mazonos to the wife. Maybe that's also a cheshbon that she doesn't want to get a get because she wants to be supported. Anyway, that's the most question. Could we assume that if they're in the fight, she wants out and it's considered supposed to get a get? So the Gemara says Tashma. The Gemara is going to say in a lot of ways the same thing, that it's better to stay married. She probably not saying inherently it's better to stay married, but the chazak is that she wants to stay married even though they're in a fight. Tashma, of course, there might be an exception, but the standard is that she wants to stay married. Tashma adam reshlokish tavla meisav tandu melevesav amalu. It's better to be married than to be an almana, to be by herself. Even though fighting is a bad marriage, not good. Better to be married than to be alone, to be amalu, to be almana. Better that a woman should be married, better than being almana.
Again, on the question makeup for a woman, not for a man.
Here the Gemara is talking about the woman. Here it's talking about the woman, right? And the rest of the Gemara are going to say also things about the woman. She wants to be married even if it's not a good husband. Abaye Omar the Shimshimona Gavra Korse be Charta Ramula. Even if her husband is like an ant, like a little ant, a garnished, a little guy, like a nobody. Still, she puts her seat amongst the free women. Means that she's a chashuv. If she's married, she's isha chashuv. If she's not married, she's a nobody. So she'd rather be married even to a nobody, because then she's a somebody. If she's a married woman is better than being a single woman. The Papa Omar, the nafsa, the same thing over and over again, different expressions. The nafsa gavra tikri b'sifi bava b'teisim. Even if her husband is a napat seems to be a somebody who combs wool. It's like a lowly job in those days. So even if her husband has a lowly job, she calls him out to the threshold to sit next to him. They sit on the porch together, even though this is your husband. Yeah, this is my husband. I have a husband. That she's happy to have a husband, even though he's not a chashav again. So Rashi seems to say that even if her husband is Shemetz Psul. I don't know where Rashi got it from, but Rashi says Shemetz Psul. Even if her husband has some kind of a blemish in his lineage, but she'd rather be married to him even without getting any parnasa. Rashi says that she doesn't even ask for beans, adashim. She doesn't even ask for lentils. Means even if he doesn't pay her, doesn't give her any mazonos, she'd rather be married to him, even though he has some kind of blemish in his lineage, and she's not even asking for food, just wants to be married. And the last case, Tana, not the last case. Those are all the expressions of saying the same thing over again. That a woman would rather be married, even if he's not even. And here it's saying even in a fight. The Gemara brings down all kinds of cases. He's not a hush of a guy, but here the issue is talking about even if they're in a fight, the standard is that she wants to be married rather than be divorced. And Tana, but the Bryce ends up for Kula Mizanos for Tolos Bavale. And all these women that they don't really like their husband, they don't want their husband, they're Mizana. They're Mizana. But they excuse themselves because what does it mean that they say they got pregnant because of their husband? It means that they use their husband as a shield, that they went away Mizana, but this way they have a husband, so that people think that she was really pregnant from her own husband. But really she's being Mizana. She just has a cover that she has a husband. So the Gemara seems to say at the end that it's not good. It's not really good that she should stay married to such a marriage. But the women themselves, the standard is that they want to stay married. So you want to talk about it? Yeah, but here we're talking about if she is a schus for her. Means the question about making a shliach l'kabbalah that she accepts again, you have to talk about what she wants, even if she's wrong. But she's standard that she wants to stay married, even though it's not the right thing. If she goes to the Rav might say it's better to get divorced than get a husband. But she'd rather stay married. So therefore, you can't give her a get against her will, and that's what the Gemara seems to come out. In the first case, we said it's a suffix. The case of a yavam that in order to save her from doing yibum, we didn't know. Sometimes she likes the brother-in-law, sometimes she doesn't. Over there, it's a suffix. But the second case, the Gemara seems to say that's not considered a schus for the woman. Even though she's in a fight, she'd rather stay married, even though they're in a fight. Of course, if you got to make a telephone call and she says she wants it, okay, then she wants it, then it's a schus. But if we don't know, the standard is that a woman wants to stay married even if they're in a fight, and therefore you can't make a get to become a shliach l'kabbalah without her consent. Yeshikach, everybody. Thank you. The Siyam, thank you. The Siyam seems to be aimed for Friday. Friday seems to be the last day of yevamos according to our schedule. If we keep up with the half a day, and the Siyam is not so practical on Friday or Motzei Shabbos at 10:30. So it's aimed, it seems, for Sunday lunchtime probably.
Yeah, lunchtime.
Okay, we'll talk more about it if anybody has any ideas. So please send them in. Yashikar, everybody. Thank you.